And I've made contact prints upstairs in the bathroom, and then I got I found a enlarger, and I started messing around with 35 millimeter at 1.2, but I was just doing black and white stuff. But I remember all that. That was a lot of fun. But but I had taken over my sisters. I had two sisters. They had bedrooms upstairs. I took over their bathroom, so it was all full of chemicals, and the window had drapes over it, and I taped it up so no light would get in there, all that. They didn't like that at all. Anyway, back over to you, Paul. WA3VJB K1YW.
Yeah, it's kind of tough in a shared home to have yourself a dark room. When we first moved here, we had 3 cats, so we knew that their presence was going to be incompatible with dust-free film work. So I never set one up here. I did a little bit in college because there was a dark room in the basement of the dorm that I had access to. But I just felt like the picture-taking exercise, I'm no Ansel Adams, where the printing is also part of the artistry. Mine was mostly the equivalent of street photography, and not portraiture. It was outdoor stuff, scenery, the dogs, the women, and that was all quite casual, but very much an enjoyable pursuit. I've got my dad's 1960 Pentax that he bought brand new when I was a little boy. And I've recently come across some of the original Tri-X images that he took of me as a little boy. So to kind of act as a tribute to his hobby of photography, I got the camera cleaned and aligned and the shutter speeds adjusted, and I put it back in service, and I've been shooting black and white on the Pentax. Tri-X, or Elsis Ilford. And as a kind of an academic exercise, my dad used to ask me if I was still using the Pentax every so often. He kind of put it on permanent loan to me back in college. And, to tell you the truth, no, I wasn't using it that much, but I would tell him that I'm taking good care of it. And one of the things that usually would follow up that conversation is that he always wished he had bought the faster lens for it. Back in 1960, it came with an f2 lens, 50 millimeter prime lens. And at the time, you could also have gotten a 1.4 faster lens, still 55 millimeters, almost the same focal length. And I got a hunch that since I was the baby and needed to be fed, that he instead bought a top flash or a light meter for the thing instead of the more expensive lens. So as part of this tribute to him, Greg, I have since found the right vintage Pentax 1.4 lens, and I've been using it in his honor, and it makes great pictures. I'll send you a couple of negative scans from that camera, and it's just been wonderful to put it back online in my dad's memory. And Rob, I understand about the dog's getting old, and especially if she's got some problems. It's always one of those things you have to brace yourself for. One of the reasons you can kind of count on missing them when their time has come is how much they today mean to you. We're on our 5th lab, I think, now, with all but the first one being a lab rescue adoptee. And it's just a wonderful experience. I've got one of them listening to me on the radio right now in the other room. And the other one's in the house with Pam while she does a little bit of painting. So, they're an important presence in our lives. And Greg, you mentioned how you could use the exercise yourself. Yeah. My doctor's most recent physical discussion, my annual exam, continues to praise the dogs for how well they're keeping me in shape. And so I would highly recommend connecting yourself to their exercise, Greg. It'll be good for you. And Rob, yeah, very good on the chips. Greg, you know I'm in on that as well. Let me know how to pay you. I'm inclined to just write you a check and mail it up to you if you don't mind. And that'll have the address on it to ship. And thank you for doing that, too. I think a number of us will appreciate having a spare set of the pink 40s on the shelf. Rob, over to you. And you're on the Super Senior. I wonder what you're on, Greg, when it comes back around to you there. Good signals all the way around. W1WOR, and good on hearing Gordon. Nice to know he's doing okay, I presume. WA3VJB with the group.
And another Super Senior on the air.
It's an invasion.
Good morning.
Shake hanging there, too.
Yeah, let's see if I got it. Hello, Brett. W1WOR. Yes, how can you say you're never prepared there? So, and I always said that, you know, if you know, when her time goes, like I said, they're here in mission, unconditional love. No matter how their day is, they're always ready to please you. So, been through a lot of dogs before. And this one here is topped them all there. I'm not going to go into details why she is the top there, but someday or other we'll elaborate on it. She's my best friend. But I always said that, you know, one thing I've always believed in and never wished upon it as we all got older. I've always wished my pets, my dogs, would go before I do. Because as humans, we understand death. And, you know, when somebody goes, when you go, your pet doesn't understand that. So that every day, that when that door opens, your dog and your pet is looking for you. And I always had this thing, he says, I only went out to take the garbage out. Well, you were gone for a week. No, I just took the garbage out. The tail and waggle in the butt. And the old saying is, throw your girlfriend or your wife in the trunk for a half hour with your dog and see who gets and licks your face first. Anyway, there. So, but she's doing good now. She sits out on the sidewalk because she can't come downstairs, and with the arthritis, she got to be walked. But for some time now, she just sits on the grass by the sidewalk and waits to greet people. She's happy to meet people, and so she's asked for a pet, and that makes her day, and she makes them happy there. Yeah, Greg, yeah, I'll get some of them. And photography. I started when Canon had its first AE1 programmable. I got every lens and motor wind for that. And I got into black and white. And I love black and white. And Kenny Rogers that did a book on it. He did a lot of black and white photography. I was up at Keene College here one time, and it was a hazy day. And we're hanging out on the railroad tracks, and there's like all these blackbirds on the electrical lines and the telephone lines, and everybody goes, this is like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. I took a picture of that, and a couple of them, the distance with the track, and my sister had a gallery and stuff like that, and I showed them that, and she goes, have these blown up. She sold them like crazy. And black and white, what I like about it is color. You look at a color picture and your eyes always attract to the brightest color. Black and white doesn't do that. It's even. And I got into street photography, and there's a lot of controversy about street photography. You got to be careful about the camera pointing at people there, you know, even the phone. You know, you taking my picture, you know you can't. We're in the park, you're in a public place. Well, it's just not children. And so there was, I forget his name, all the way back from the 30s there was a famous black and white street photographer, and that's become very popular. And I have a Canon, a Panasonic Luminox, and it's very small. It's not big flashy. It's not a Nikon with a big lens on there and stuff like that. Kind of discreet, and it has a tilt-out screen, so you can put it on your lap and look at it. Even has an app on your phone, so if you want to snap somebody's picture there indiscreetly, you know, because as soon as the camera comes up to your eye, everybody's like, hey. And I've taken pictures and people question me. I go, well, here's the picture. I go, you know, this is you. Oh, that's very nice. I can delete it if you want, if not. And then sometimes you get people actually posing. So a lot of fun with that. So we'll pass it over to Brett there and see what he's operating on.
Well, good afternoon. SWR looks okay. On the Super Senior. And let's see what the power is. 280 watts carrier. So it's been working okay. We'll see if things continue. But yeah, I heard Gordon on. I said hello to Gordon, and sounded like he was busy, so it's good to know he's still around and able to get on the air. Said he was working, so I guess he's recording someone or something. Hello Paul, hello Rob, hello Greg. Had a good motorcycle ride in, did a lot of fire cut cleanup, moving trees and branches and trimming things, and where there's a giant tree fell, making it go around, moving as much stuff. And it's a workout. It's not that hot out, but man, I just you wear a helmet and a jacket and gloves, and it don't take much to get you overheated. So getting ready for barbecue pork loin on the spit, I think. And that's the deal here. So it looks like the Super Senior is functioning fine. It only does want to do about a kilowatt of peak power, but that's alright with me. I mean, I could tweak that knob, but so far so good. I don't think the difference would make any difference, so that's the deal. Now I guess I turn it over to Greg, is it, or Paul? I don't know. I'll turn it over to Greg. Hello, Greg. Boy, it's been days. Well, it's been hours or days since we've spoken. K1YW in a group from NTDTS.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, days, hours, I don't know. But I wonder, Brett, on a quick one, did you get your LP100 power meter yet?
Yeah, I got that yesterday, day before yesterday, I think. And I went through and I calibrated my other meters. I calibrated the Yaesu YS60, and that's pretty close. It seems to be reading a little bit high, but maybe that'll go down over time. And the Swan watt meter, the big one, I calibrated that. The watt meter and the Heathkit antenna tuner, it looks like the adjustments for that are inside that little box on the back, and I'm not taking that apart, so I'm just going to have to double whatever that says, because I'm not getting involved in that. I think they were set at the factory, but, you know, I don't know when that was, 30 years ago or more, so anyway, that's the deal. Got the LP100, and that has enabled me to eliminate issues and calibrate things. All my watt meters were reading about 100 watts low, or 90 watts, so there you go. Either they're all low, or this thing is 100 watts high, but whatever. K1YW in a group from NTDTS.
Okay, Brett. Yeah, fine. I wondered if you ever, or if you tried cranking up the Super Senior to 300 watts carrier and seeing if you could get, 1200 in PEP on the LP100. That's something that I did when you posted that comment on QRZ about not being able to get to higher powers. I was curious. I only went to 300, but I was thinking about going going up further. I don't know. Maybe I will sometime into a dummy load. But yeah, it's a really nice day. I think I'm gonna clear out of here actually and go for a bike ride. I got a little bit of cleaning to do before that, maybe. But yeah, it's interesting. The film, black and white film, I always enjoyed it. The Tri-X film. I was doing stuff at like 400 ASA or ISO now, or whatever that is now, or who knows. But I'm kind of wondering if there's any resurgence in film, camera film operations. Kind of like the vinyl LP records made a comeback, but yeah, black and white is definitely. I think it's more interesting. Hey, I grew up on black and white television with a fuzzy image, so I don't think we got a color television until like the 1980s at home, and I was just about out of there by then. So anyway, let's send it back over to Paul, WA3VJB, and I'm going to listen out to you guys. But good to hear everyone. This is K1YW.
Before you go, Greg, which rig is this that you're on? Which rig is this that you're on, Greg?
Well, I'm on the DIY.
Okay, good. I think that's a new record then. We've got 4 of them on here. That's why I wanted to know. We've got yours, we got Rob on his, we got Brett on his, and me on mine. And also hello to George. WB2HJK has been patiently waiting in the wings. I'll make a quick comment on film stock and say that, yeah, there's still enough interest to sustain these companies that do the developing and the uploading of the scanned images. And the machines that they're using to develop both the black and white and the color film have a digitally scanned output as they're doing their functions. So it's very quick to run it through the developing tanks in an automated way, have them scanned in the machine, have the roll of film spit out the other end, box it up, and mail it back to you. So it's kind of a neat continuation of what we remember as kids. And I do think there's a certain resurgence with your analogy of vinyl records. People wanting to actually be more well connected to the taking of a picture, as was Rob there with his AE1. And Brett, I'll comment a little bit more to you after George makes a transmission. Hopefully you waited around, George. Nice to hear you. Briefly, just your call letters. And I accept your good afternoon. And same to you. WB2HJK and the group WA3VJB. Go ahead.
Radio Guatemala. Thank you. I don't know how copy, but poor copy, most of you. It won't be fair for me to stick around. I'm doing about 25 watts, of course. But I just want to say, good to hear all of you as much as I can. So my acceptance to all of you. I'll be on the side listening and enjoying the QSO, whatever I can, that is. And with that, I don't know who to give it to, but please continue, and I'll do the best I can to copy. Pleasure, as always, to all of you, listening to all of you, that is, and I'll stand on the side. By the way, the call has changed from WB2HJK to W2HJK. No Bravo. And with that, let me just say again, 73. Thank you for picking me up. Have a great morning, all of you. Good afternoon, I should say. And W2HJK clear and listening.
I wonder if that's a recent development. I don't know why I have it in my head that it's WB2. Either that or it's been that long since we talked. I know K9GAS, the gas man, went back and forth a couple of times and is now KU9 something. I still call him the gas man, so I may slip for a while there as the WB2HJK, George. Nice to hear you. Copy is fine, both here at home at your 25 watts on the ITT McKay, as well as on one of the nodes up in New England somewhere where you're coming in, it looks like 10 to 15 over 9. I didn't have the bar graph turned on. But you're doing fine into both locations, so please don't hesitate to continue riding along. And Brett, very good. I've been following so that's kind of nice to kind of have the block diagram version of how to troubleshoot the thing. Hopefully I won't need to, but to at least understand a little bit better how the thing works. And yeah, very good on the wattage test there. I think Greg could probably get away with it, and now that his antenna system seems to be proven out, to crank it on up to the higher power level. And I have this set to 250 just to have it matched with the Collins, so that the power levels and the audio input and everything else are all about the same. Now, I don't see there's much difference in the field between 250 and something higher, even if it's not particularly saving the transmitter in that sense of things. I just don't see the advantage to having disparate power levels between these two transmitters anyway. So, Rob, back over to you, and very good on the black and white experiments there, too. Yeah, you can still get some pretty good film stock. The Fuji Acros, A-C-R-O-S, Acros 100, is probably the best black and white film out there now if you ever wanted to get back into it. Tri-X has its certain look, very, very high contrast. I find it a little bit difficult to work with our two labs because Katie is a chocolate lab, so if I expose properly for her dark coat, I wind up blowing out the highlights on Keats, who's a butterscotch lab. If I expose properly for him, I start losing shadow detail on Katie, so I'm kind of stuck between the two. And I would prefer to use something of lower contrast, or just fix it in Photoshop. You can do it there as well. So here comes Rob, and hopefully you heard George in there as well. And then you kick it to Brett. And we'll say 73 to Greg for the time being. W1WOR in the group, WA3VJB.
Kilo Golf 2, Radio Golf. All right, recognize W1WR. Yeah, I don't think I run no more than 250 or so on there, tops there on the K70YY, either 116, 80, and 84. That I never really did. I couldn't see any, why push it to the edge there? So, but I got to say, I'm sorry for all the guys that are having difficulty. Knock on wood, and that would be my head there. I've been fortunate with that. But there was a discussion. I don't know if we brought it up once before. Some of them had to do with people's tuners, not only in the antenna, but their tuners that they were running it through. Well, I'm fine on the matchbox, my Big Johnson, the kilowatt matchbox. Oops, and then the AT4K in all balanced line there. So luckily with that there. Yeah, Paul, I don't have any more film cameras. I think the last one was, I forget what model, with my big Nikon there. And it was a well sought after one still, the D70 or something, D700. Unfortunately, somebody had it with all the bells and whistles there. And actually, I sold it, but because I got into street photography one, something smaller. I went out with a young lady that was a really good photographer. We classified as professional, and she had her own darkroom in her place there. And we went out for a while, and it was nice being in the darkroom with her because things developed into things that you didn't expect there. So anyway, I got to go because my lunch is going to be coming soon. But I'll be listening there, but I didn't want to just ditch out there and go, hey, Justin, Rob, have a crap out there. So good to talk to everybody and all the K70YY group there. We're going to have to get T-shirts now. All right, so I'll turn it over to Brett there, and I'm glad things are running there. And Greg, to hear you, and anybody else that I have been missing because I'm tasking here. W1WR, over to you, Brett.
Okay. W1WOR. See you later, Rob. 73 to Greg. And Greg, if you're still listening, real quick, I did turn it up to 325 watts, and that's no problem, but it will only do a kilowatt PEP, so I don't get any more modulation. I don't get any more positive modulation out of it. So about 275 is about the best I can do. So that's what it's running now. 275 watts carrier. I get 110% modulation, and it gets up to about roughly a kilowatt, according to the meters. Hello, Justin. Boy, Justin's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of radio equipment. I wasn't hearing George very well, so I'll turn it over to Justin. I wonder if he's got a DIY. This is like the DIY channel. So, and if you don't have a DIY, you're looked down upon. And I guess we should take bets. So whose DIY is gonna crap out next? Mine probably, but you never know. Paul and I think Rob have been working really well. So I think Greg's had some issues. Maybe we should get George at DIY. That would really up his power level. And then he'd be like really a fixture on the frequencies. So I can't really hear him today at the present time. Over to Justin, KG2RG with WA3BJB and W2HJK from N2DTS, Brett in Southern New Jersey, on the DIY.
Oh boy, I hope I'm just firing things up here. Let's see. Okay, everything is looking good here. And by the way, I'm running. I'm not running the amplifier. I'm only running 50 watts on the homebrew, and it's been working good now that I've got the 80 meter doublet on the balance tuner, the Johnson Matchbox. I've got the smaller one. I think Rob just mentioned he had the Matchbox. Maybe he's got the big one. I was wondering, I know it can handle a lot more power, but I was wondering if the big one has more inductance on the coil, or are they the same? I think the small one that I have has 4.7 microhenries. And I couldn't get a match on 40 and 20. And JBL suggested I make a coil, so I just kind of played around, made a I think it's 12 turns, 3-inch diameter, and I've got it tapped, and it seems to now match, perfect match on the doublet, and the doublet is the homebrew open wire with 4-inch spacing. So anyway, that's what I'm doing right now, and it's 50 watts of carrier, and yeah, Brett, thank you so much. I received that book. I haven't had a chance to read it. I've been playing ham radio, doing a couple things, working, of course. I have days off yesterday and today, and I had to do a bunch of yard work today in between the radio work play. But thank you so much for the book. I opened it up. I was going through just taking a look at all the stuff in there, and I guess it's by the way, I should mention the book is the big green book, the radio. This is a really cool looking book. This is the radio handbook by Orr. What is it? Bill Orr, William Orr, W6. SAI. So I'm going to definitely put this to use. There's some really nice mathematical formulas in here, and I'm not that great with math, but I can teach myself or reteach some of the stuff I used to know when I was younger, but which I've been doing lately, a lot of math problems and solving things and all that. But thank you so much, Brett. I really appreciate it. It came in the mail yesterday, and my wife said, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, this is the big green book." So thank you so much. I'm not sure who gets it, so I apologize. I hope you guys can figure out the order. This is Kilo Golf 2, Romeo Golf, Justin in the New York State Capitol.
Pick it up.
Might be my turn. Yeah, I think you're right, Brett. N2DTS in the group WA3VJB. Hello, Justin. I see the homebrew rig listed and pictured on your QRZ.com profile, but I don't see what the tube lineup is. At 50 watts, you're doing a nice job into Annapolis. We've talked before. Name here is Paul. And very good on the radio handbook. They used to call that the West Coast handbook, as to distinguish it from the ARRL's version. I always found Robert Orr's version much more practical. And they also carried certain construction articles over from year to year. That's how I first got onto it, as a matter of fact, because it documents the origins of my 1953 homebrew transmitter. A pair of 810s modulating a pair of 4250s in its original design with plug-in HDVL swinging link coils. It's up on 10 meters now, somewhat handicapped. It's a special needs transmitter at the moment, not functional, despite the sunspots that we're apparently enjoying up there. I'll give it another go one of these days, but no time soon. And yeah, it's a good idea there, Rob, to try to see if we can outfit George with one of these. Maybe we can get a special dispensation from Bruce Franklin to get George one of those. And I don't know if you might be power limited there, George, because of your antenna logistics. So it's not as if you couldn't run the power, but you can't. If that makes any sense. I think that might be what your problem is. And yeah, I guess Greg's long gone, but Brett, I was wondering if you were out today. The weather is kind of nice. I don't know if you were listening or not, but we got out for an early morning hike with the dogs, about a little over an hour, 2 miles, and they just loved it because it was like 70 degrees. Lots of humidity, a lot of dew on the grass, so we actually pulled on our rain boots after yesterday's hiking boots got quite wet from all the early morning dew. Just went ahead and put the rain boots on. I was glad of it because they got wet all the way up to the top from the grass in the meadow. And let's see, what else? Yeah, I was sorry to hear you got rid of all your camera gear, Rob. You know, there's a couple of places that still trade in used manual focus camera gear. And I don't know if you ever had an awakened interest in it or what have you, but it's out there. I was very pleased to be able to put my dad's camera back on, as I was describing. And I have a Nikon FM3A that Pam bought me for my 50th birthday, I think it was. They were only in production for about 6 years, but they were the crowning achievement of Nikon for a manual focus film camera. Shutter speed up to 1/4 sound. Starts with a 4, ends with thousandths of a shutter speed, and the same variety of f-mount lenses that date all the way back to the f3 and f1 and FM and all the rest. The manual focus lenses are just wonderful to operate as well. It makes you think about your depth of field and what it is you're focusing on. And I agree, Rob, with your contention that people's eyes are attracted to the brightest color in the image, and that's an advantage in composing and printing black and white photography. I loved your blackbird story. I wonder if those prints are still in circulation at all. Do you still have the negative from that? I'd love to see an image you could email me. And it would remind me of the Hitchcock movie, Bird Sitting on the Wire. I've taken some black and white film on the Pentax, my dad's camera, around the water, and it's kind of neat to see the contrast of the glimmering water and the dark trees of the summertime foliage. That contrast is really good too, especially on the Tri-X. But as mentioned, it's a little bit of a challenge to try to get both of the labs properly exposed. The latitude of the film is just not that great that I can expose properly in full sunlight on both of them. So that, combined with single-coated lenses on the Pentax from 65 years ago, tells me that I ought to just shoot on overcast days with the Pentax black and white, which will help my contrast situation as well. But yeah, it's fun. And here's the 36 exposure can of film that I'm getting ready to send off to a place in New York that a friend of mine turned me on to called CRC Labs, Color Resource Company, and they do excellent black and white work. They've even got this new metallic print paper that makes the whites look metallic. Very neat effect, especially for larger portraits on your wall. But I get a little bit into the weeds there, so pull me back. Here comes W1WOR. You want to try George? Let's see if George. He kind of comes and goes. He checks in, he says hellos, and then he backs away. But let's see if we can't pull him back into it. Sit up, George. Kate, and oh, by the way, I see July 9th is when you became Whiskey 2, Hotel Juliet Kilo. You dropped the B. You're no longer one of those B operators. Now W2HJK and the group WA3VJB. Congrats on the 1x3. Back to play. Go ahead, Rob.
I thought Rob signed out.
You go too? Well, then it's your turn, Brett.
Yeah, I think he said he was going to get lunch. A little late for lunch, but... Okay. Let him have a late lunch. WA3VJB, and I didn't hear George at all or see any sign of him. So, I'll say 73 to those guys. Yeah, that's the West Coast Handbook. Was it editors and engineers? There's the 15th edition, the yellow one. That is just chock full of like really good stuff. Yeah, a lot of the work is done for you in that book. Like if you want to build a power supply, he's got a whole bunch of different power supplies by power class. You know, he's got lower voltages and currents with the amount of filtering that you want, different designs, all the way up to really high power stuff. And he'll give you the values for choke input, capacitor input, you know, choke cap kind of thing, bleeder resistor values, and resistance and ohms of what the voltage drop will be with no load and load and all that stuff. And it's really high. There's a high fidelity you know, tube audio section in there. There's a lot of really good RF information in there, you know, transmitters, finals, designs and all that stuff, and of course transmitters, receivers, and your basic information. I think it's the best reference I ever found for radio stuff like we like. So if you're going to fool around with the tube stuff, that is the book to have. The one before that is good too, but it's more like, you know, it's got more like push-pull stuff in it and things of that nature. It's just a little maybe not as common today as it was 10 or 20 years ago. There's people still running push-pull stuff. Certainly around. So yeah, I got a walk-in this morning. I try to, if it's not too hot out and you know, I have the time, I try and get a walk-in around the hood. And I frequently see, you know, people walking their dogs as we used to do when we had a dog. And I would, you know, I would say like, well, I'm out here walking, I guess I need a dog, you know. And they would say, yes, you need a dog, because if you have a dog, you want everybody else to have a dog, right? And that's just the way it is. Now I feel like, you know, people are saying like, hey, where's your dog? And of course, if you know, you're younger and you want to pick up and or is it? It's got a coil across both plates, so I guess it's push-pull, but then it looks like a dry output, which is interesting. I don't know. I have to look at that. And the driver is the modulator is a transformer-driven 1625s, 807s, I think. Like I said, it's a little small. And they got a 6C4 or a 12C4, which is my favorite diode tube for drivers or VFOs. So that's the deal. And film cameras, I don't think I would do very well. My wife was into it, but you know, I looked at those things and they, like the camera that she had and my father had, when you focused it, it had this grid thing in the middle, right? And I guess like you were supposed to get that thing sharp or something. You might comment on it if you know what I'm talking about. When you're looking through the viewfinder and you're focusing thing, there was a thing right in the center of the picture that was some kind of guide to focusing. And I could never, it's like music to me. If I hear a note and I want to duplicate that tone, I can't do it. Is it a little low? Is it a little high? And it's like focusing is sort of the same way. Is it a little further this way or that way? Like I could probably do it, but it would take really long. Whereas I think people good with cameras can do it. Now I think it is cool though. Like when you want to take a picture these days through a window. The automatic cameras will focus on the glass, I guess. They don't focus on, you have to do it manually, which you don't have that problem with a manual focus camera, right? Over to Justin. KG2RG with WA3VJB and possibly George missing in action from N2DTS.
Yeah, okay, fine business. And just getting some text messages from my son talking about just stuff in general, with dogs. We used to have a dog here, Buttercup, but my son took him, and that's okay. Because he takes really good care of her. He's actually out walking her right now. So she's more healthier with them because they take her out all, they're younger, so they're always out taking her out. I just miss Buttercup because she would just hang out here with me and we'd get fat together and I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm not that fat yet, but yeah, I used to be bigger, and then I was riding the bike a lot, and then I was like 6'1", and I was down to 170 pounds. I think I'm like 205 or 210 pounds right now, but I don't want to get any bigger. So it's a good thing Buttercup's not here, because that's what we did was just hang around and live the good life. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, the rig is exactly as Brett described. 1625s modulated by pair, push-pull. It's got a 12 AX7 and the speech amplifier. Driving a 12J5 transformer coupled over to the modulator. And it's a fun radio. It's pretty crazy looking. It's just looks like a cross between a 1950s television and a New York City hot dog truck. It's just if you imagine, like, if you're down in New York City and you pass by a hot dog truck cart with transformers and sticking out of it, and yeah, it's pretty ugly, but sometimes ugly is the beauty of it all. And yeah, so I got this coil thing working now, but it's just a test coil. It's on a piece of wood, a piece of dry wood, and I don't know how much resistance is on that coil, but 50 watts. I've got my phone here, and if I pull out the calculator on it here, let's see, I don't know how accurate this will be, but what do you think, how much resistance do you think is on that coil with a 4-inch spacing balanced line going to an 80 meter and operating on this frequency here? I don't think it's too much, but I would say my guess would be somewhere between 500 and 1,000 ohms, somewhere in there. I'm not really sure, but if I had to guess, let's say if it was 700 ohms and I'm running 50 watts, that would be 50 times 700 ohms. That equals 3,500, and if I extract